Seen Chop post earlier, like, damn, we had to sell everything.
Trap, stop saying we. You the one got that nigga caught up doing all them damn diss songs, knowing you ain't had nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
You think ultimately that's what got him caught up?
Yeah. When he went live on that freeway, they knew somebody in that circle had something to do with it. You brought it back to some rap shit.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, you brought it back to some rap shit when he went live on that freeway. You made it back to some rap shit. You done made all them damn diss songs, made your partner so hot.
Dallas police say rapper Yella Beezy hired a hitman to kill Mo3, his one-time friend turned rival. And the man now sitting at the center of that case isn't a witness who volunteered to talk. He's someone the streets have already labeled a snitch. But what the internet ran with and what the court record actually shows are two very different stories. And that difference is exactly what we're breaking down today. To understand how we got here, you have to understand what Yella Beezy and Trapboy Freddy built together first. Beezy, born Maris DeAndre Conway, came up out of Oak Cliff, the Dallas neighborhood that produced some of the rawest, most authentic trap music Texas has ever heard. He spent the early 2010s grinding through mixtapes before his 2017 single That's On Me exploded, a remix featuring T. 2 Chainz, Boozy Badazz, Young Jeezy, and Rich the Kid turned him from a regional name into a national one. By 2019, his music had crossed 1 billion streams. He didn't do it alone. Trapboy Freddy, born Devarius Dantes Moore, came from that same soil. His breakout record, Lil Quita, built him a fan base well beyond Texas, and along the way he earned cosigns from Erykah Badu, Young Thug, and Young Dolph. But the most significant cosign came from Beezy himself, who publicly said Freddy was going to keep doing his thing as long as Beezy was doing his, and vice versa. That's not label talk, that's a pledge. Beezy brought Freddy onto the That's On Me remix, standing him shoulder to shoulder with T.I. and 2 Chainz. And in May 2020, the two of them released a full collaborative project called I'm My Brother's Keeper. 13 tracks built around brotherhood, Oak Cliff pride, and years of shared come-up. The title wasn't marketing, it was a statement. 6 months later, everything changed. On November 11th, 2020, Dallas rapper Mo3, born Melvin Noble, was shot and killed on Interstate 35E in broad daylight. Traffic cameras caught the whole thing. A masked gunman pulled up alongside Mo3's car, chased him on foot when he tried to run, and shot him multiple times. A bystander was also hit and survived. Mo3 died at the hospital. He was 28. A man named Kaiwan Dantrell White was arrested weeks later and eventually convicted on a federal firearms charge tied to the shooting, sentenced to just under 9 years. A second man, Devin Maurice Brown, was also indicted and later took a plea deal. But for years, the deeper question, who ordered it, who paid for it, stayed unanswered. The streets talked, the internet speculated, nothing was confirmed. That changed on March 18, 2025, when a Dallas County grand jury indicted Maris Conway on capital murder for remuneration, alleging he hired Kaiwan White to kill Mo3 for payment. 2 days later, Beezy was arrested. Financial records reportedly showed he withdrew $40,000 in cash around the time of the killing. His bond was initially set at $2 million, later reduced to $750,000 after his grandmother testified about the family's actual finances. He was released on house arrest, ankle monitor, banned from contacting the victim's family, and has pleaded not guilty ever since. Now here's where Trapboy Freddy enters the story, and where most of the internet got it wrong. The moment Beezy's arrest broke, Freddy's name surfaced right alongside it. But not as a witness. Law enforcement identified him, Devarius Dantes Moore, as a wanted suspect in connection with Mo3's killing itself. Investigators reportedly had leads implicating him in the planning of the crime, not just knowledge of it. That's a completely different legal position than being called to testify. The streets didn't wait for that distinction. Within hours, the narrative had already flipped. Trapboy Freddy snitched on Yella Beezy. He went to the feds. He sold out his brother to save himself. Every blog, every YouTube thumbnail, every TikTok repeated some version of it. And Freddy didn't help himself. He went on No Jumper and said publicly that Beezy had been forced to sell everything. Assets, property, all of it, just to cover his bond and legal fees. Whether he meant it as shade or just cold commentary, the internet took it as confirmation. The snitch label stuck immediately. But here's what actually separates rumor from record. Being identified as a wanted suspect does not make you a cooperating witness. One means investigators think you may have been involved in the crime. The other means you sat down with prosecutors and gave them information to use against someone else. Going on social media to talk about a former partner's finances is not the same as walking into a courtroom and testifying against him. As of now, no verified court filing or credible reporting confirms Freddy struck any formal cooperation deal with prosecutors. And when you actually look at his position, it makes sense why his name would surface regardless of guilt or innocence. Freddy had a public brotherhood with Beezy. He also had his own recording history with MO3, including the track Can't Double Us. He sat directly at the center of a web investigators spent 5 years untangling. Any serious probe into Mo3's death was always going to land on his name. That's not an accusation, that's just proximity. Yella Beezy, for his part, has not publicly called out Freddy by name since the arrest. He's maintained his innocence and let his legal team do the talking. Whether that silence is restraint, strategy, or something else, only he knows. But the man who once said Freddy would always be his brother has said nothing about him publicly since this all broke. And that says something on its own. The court side of this case has moved fast in its own way. Prosecutors have pushed to admit 4 of Beezy's songs as evidence at trial, arguing, through testimony from lead detective Eric Barnes, that when witnesses won't talk to police, investigators go where the story actually got told, on wax and on social media. One song in particular reportedly referenced a bounty on someone's head, and 2 others were allegedly found in text messages Beezy sent a co-defendant the day of the murder. The defense has pushed back hard, bringing in a University of Richmond professor who studies rap lyrics in criminal cases. His argument, jurors without hip-hop literacy tend to read violent lyrics literally, when the same words in another genre would be read as performance. He compared rappers to professional wrestlers, characters, not confessions. The judge has not yet ruled on whether the songs come in. The defense has also pushed back on the sheer size of the evidence, reportedly around 16 terabytes of material. Much of it, they argue, irrelevant jail calls and files with no clear connection to the case. That fight, along with the death of Conway's mother during the pretrial period, has already pushed the trial date back once. It's now scheduled for August 24, 2026. So where does that leave both men? Beezy is fighting the most serious legal battle of his life. Capital murder for remuneration, a charge that in Texas carries either life without parole or the death penalty. He's on house arrest, has had requests denied, including one just to watch his son play football, and is navigating a life dictated entirely by court orders. Freddy occupies a stranger, messier space. He didn't enter this story as a cooperating witness. He entered it as a named suspect in the same murder. The internet collapsed that distinction the moment it went online and turned it into a betrayal narrative that spread faster than any correction could catch up to. What we actually know he did is talk publicly about his former partner's financial collapse. What remains unconfirmed in any public record is whether he's cooperated with prosecutors in any formal capacity at all. That gap between what people believe and what's actually been proven is exactly what makes this case so combustible. And the album they made together, the one called I'm My Brother's Keeper, now carries a weight neither of them could have imagined when they picked that title. 2 Oak Cliff artists who came up together, put brotherhood on wax, and told the world they'd ride for each other no matter what, now sitting on opposite ends of one of the most consequential murder cases in Texas rap history. None of this gets settled in a comment section. It gets settled in a Dallas courtroom in front of a jury that's never heard of that album and doesn't care about the history between 2 men who once called each other brothers. They'll hear the evidence, hear the songs, and decide what actually happened on that highway back in November 2020. Until that verdict comes down, everything else, the snitch label, the speculation, the social media verdicts, is noise. What isn't noise is that a man named Melvin Noble is gone. His family is still waiting for answers, and this case has become a defining test of how the legal system treats hip-hop itself. Drop your thoughts below. Do you think Trapboy Freddy crossed a line? Or is the internet running with a story that isn't fully there yet? Stay locked in, because when this trial actually starts in August, we'll be breaking down every development as it happens.